Hey there, Crest Online teachers. Welcome to lesson 13 for middle school students on the practicing of punctuation. Again, we're just going to do two questions, practicing two different types of punctuation. Number one being what change should be made in a sentence. And number two, what is the correct way to write a sentence? This would be for students in 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. They're going to experience the same kinds of questions. So remember, let's take a look as a reminder. Whenever they see those magic words, what change or correction should be made in sentence blank, have them underline change and label cups, and then they'll in both the sentence and the passage. So for the middle school, we're going to practice number one and number two with questions 7 and 9. And again, you can do as many as you want or have your kids practice the one that's grade level appropriate for them. The other kind will say, what is the correct way to write sentence, or what is the best way to write sentence? So they'll underline correct or best and label the word run-on or fragment R.O.F. And as always, it could possibly be no mistake. So we take a look here. Just a reminder, the two types of things that they can give you in a punctuation question are regular cups punctuation or sentence boundary punctuation, where they're either missing the subject or the predicate, or sometimes there's just no mistake. So we'll look at number 7 and number 9 in this video so that you can kind of take my modeling and my mentoring and practice the rest with your students. Then go ahead and slowly but surely increase their skill level. So we said we would start with number 7 and number 9. So as you can see, their 7th grade, it only got the one that was like it, only got 41%. And I think it had to do with the fact that students in middle school and high school don't practice colons and semicolons very often. It's something you can think about. If your shirt is an independent clause, your pants are another independent clause, you got them from two independent closets. And the idea is that you're going to join two independent clauses either with a comma and a fanboys, or a comma, an independent clause followed by a colon with a list, or a semicolon with another independent clause. So let's see how that looks. We'll do our annotation. I either have them write rules on the side, if whatever program you're using allows for it, which is to read, underline, label, eliminate, and select. Read softly or loudly. In testing situations, you want to read softly with a whisper phone, or just softly so that only you can understand. So let's read the question. Then we'll read it in the passage, which I brought over here for you to just practice the skill. Underline and label, mark the test in whatever ways that you feel. This should be 10 to 20% of the grade. Don't just 100% allow them to get away with selecting without explaining or labeling or underlining anything, because then you don't know their thought process. So let's go ahead and read. Get ready to underline what we see. What is the best way to write sentence blank? So because it says best or correct, and it says a sentence, then the type of mistake that we're looking for is put a bracket. It's either a run-on, a fragment, and sometimes there's no mistake. So what will really help is if you make sure you verbalize the punctuation, because anytime there's a punctuation issue or a sentence boundary problem, it usually can be fixed easier if the students are either saying the punctuation mark or they're doing something kinesthetic like we do with the FAT guide. So my mouse is in my hand, my mouth will be moving, and my eyes. Winners will be moving three things: their eyes, their mouth, and their mouse. So let's go ahead and draw. It says, capital. People usually like to eat snacks when they go to the movies, comma. People is our subject. The subject is plural. Like to eat is present tense. They eat things like buttery popcorn and cheesy, comma, delicious nachos, period. So what we want to notice here, comma, we bounce on the table, comma, we bounce on the table. So if you're paying attention, instead of them slowing the sentence down right here, they should have drawn a stop sign or constructed a stop sign, because this is in fact a run-on. Something that you can check on cheesy and delicious, when you substitute the word and in between two describing adjectives, cheesy and delicious nachos, then the comma is okay. If you flip it and say delicious and cheesy nachos, then that comma describing one item to separated with the two adjectives can work. So that's not the problem. The problem is over there at the beginning with the run-on. Right here, we got to fix this somehow. And sometimes they'll fix it here, and I've noticed. Sometimes they'll ask you to fix it in other places. So your next job is to say, I've got to be able to eliminate three answers, select one, and then make sure that I submit it in the correct place, in the correct spot. All right. So what we can do for all four, we can go ahead and get our yellow ball. Says to save time, let's circle. Oops, that was not what I was wanting to do. I want to draw with yellow right now. So I will look for all the commas, circle them yellow, all the slowing down punctuation. That's a semicolon, a colon. So as you see on the FAT guide, those are all slowing down punctuation marks. This one doesn't have the comma. And whenever you're describing two things in a row like that, you do need the comma. So I'm already going to eliminate that from my answer choices because I happen to catch that. There's the cheesy, comma, delicious nachos. All right, then we'll switch to the red and we'll do our F, the floor, for stop sign, punctuations, periods, exclamations, and question marks. So there's my choices, and I already have them ready. So let's check if we're going to slow down or if we're really going to stop. Mouse, mouth, and eyes. A, capital. People usually like to eat snacks when they go to the movies, period. So what did that one do? it put a period instead of a comma. It stopped the street at the end of the thought. Capital they, the people, the new subject is a pronoun, like to eat buttery popcorn and cheesy, delicious nachos. So if I look closely at that, because content is important, the phrase things like, they eat things like, they like to eat the things like part is missing. So what I would probably suggest that you do is put a question mark there, because that one could work. But if you're changing too much content, then it's better to pick one that has more of the content from the original sentence. Letter B, capital. People usually, capital, let me make that more emphatically, usually like to eat snacks when they go to the movies. Semicolon. They eat things like buttery popcorn and cheesy, delicious nachos. That's all perfect except for whenever you're joining two independent clauses with a semicolon, don't put a capital after it. You put lowercase because that's not a proper noun. So I would eliminate that one for sure. And we know for sure that we can't pick no mistake. It's not even at the bottom, but we can't pick no mistake. Capital. People usually like to eat snacks when they go to the movies. Colon. Things like buttery popcorn and cheesy, delicious nachos. We said that because of the comma being missing, when you're describing two things in a row, that can't be right. So let's compare our close answer A to our other answer B. Capital, tracking with my mouse, people usually like to eat snacks when they go to the movies, colon. Colon is followed by hour with minutes, the whole with a part. So a whole sentence with a part of it, a list. Things like buttery popcorn, the first thing, and the nachos, what kind? Cheesy, delicious nachos, period. So between these two, letter A and D, whenever they use the word best over here, like you see here on the question, that's usually a clue that there's going to be sometimes two good answers. And so the problem that the students had was it was hard to eliminate letter A because it sounded like a great idea, but whenever they change the content, and there's a better choice, then I go with the one that doesn't change the content. So this one here, I would say would be the best answer. So we would select letter D in our, get in the habit of changing it to black so I can And like I'm just filling in that little dot there. And then we've already eliminated, you don't want to touch the bubble or the letters unless they're separate from each other when you're doing your little strategies, because we want to be careful to treat the Scantron with respect. We don't want to double mark or make any silly mistakes that would cause us to get an answer wrong. So that was number 7. Again, it's either all right there in your note section that you take, then you can erase to kind of save, because we don't want anybody having computer crashing. So number 9, we have the one for 7th grade that says change that we want to practice. We will do read the question in both and the sentence, underline in both places, label, eliminate, and select submit your correct answer. So let's check our keywords. Capital, what change should be made in sentence with a little bracket? That way I don't underline the sentence. I'll make a bracket, an opening bracket when the sentence starts inside the passage, and a closing bracket. And then what we can do, which will help your kids not go to the right place, we can very tiny write. This is going to be for question number 9, so that they know question 9 goes with sentence 10. So when it says change, then our rule is C.U.P.S. That it's for the sake of capitalization, usage, subject verb agreement, punctuation, or spelling. So what we want to do is see which one has the best fix without repeating, without changing the content. Here we go. All right. Any commas that we need to look for? I see a couple of things. I want to put a yellow. They start talking right here. So that's the first thing you need to look at. I started talking here. When did I stop talking? 100 people or more a day were entering the theater next door. Instead, mentioned the owner. Since they forgot to stop talking, I'm going to put a yellow mark there. And let me undo so I can do it in the correct color. Yellow to start. And it should have been yellow to stop. So I already know that's the mistake. But we'll go ahead and take a look at all 4 to see what the distractors are, etc. Something that you might have your kids draw every time there's dialogue is an opening quotation before a mouth, which tells us what the person was saying, and the closing quotations after they're done talking. That way they remember. It's sort of like a person in the class that has dimples. We have to surround them with dimples, their mouth, or with what's commonly known as quotation marks. I see another comma here. Why is this comma here? Oh, it's telling me more about the owner. And then we have a stop sign at the end called a period. So that would be a for, a table, and an error punctuation. So now we're ready to do our rules. We're going to read both places, underline, label, eliminate 3, and select the answer in the answer choices and make sure we push selected in the Scantron that's provided and submit when we're done. Mouse, mouth, and eyes. Capital. The restaurant began charging a parking fee. Restaurant being the subject, began charging, predicate what's happening, to people who did not come in to eat since, and it has the person talking, and I copied the sentence the way it was on the test that they didn't use a tag until the end, as you can see here. 100 quotation number there instead of words. People or more a day were entering the theater next door instead, comma, because I'm done talking. Should make sure that I label that. This comma is slowing down. Close the sentence. Quotation, because they're done talking. Mention the owner, comma, capital Jess, capital Garcia, period. So what does A say? Insert a comma after people. Charging a fee to people. I don't feel a natural pause there, so I don't think that I would want to pick that. Delete the quotations after before 100. No, because the actual words that came out of Jess Garcia's mouth were 100 people or more a day were entering the theater next door instead. So I don't think deleting the quotation marks would be a good idea. All right. So what kind of mistake is inserting a comma? That's punctuation. That's punctuation. Insert quotation marks before mentioned. Let's go look and see that. There's mentioned. They're saying, should we put quotations? Yes, because that's what we noticed. So we think that's going to be the answer. And finally, delete the comma after owner. If you're going to tell me about someone, an owner, and it's abstract, it's unknown, then adding the name of the owner just like that, giving more information about the owner, there's nothing wrong with that. So you wouldn't want to delete something that is correct. So that would not be the correct answer. So what we have here is our best answer that we would go and select in our Scantron. It's going to be letter D, excuse me. No, what am I doing? It's very early in the morning for me. We need to have quotations before we start, what we say, and once we're done talking. So that's what we have for 7th grade, our next one. And I welcome you to watch all 4 of them for elementary, middle school, and the 2 for high school. That way you can kind of see what kind of questions were they struggling with. And you're welcome to do the other ones, the ones that didn't do so poorly, and some of them did, on your own. Just be sure, email me if you have a question. Let me know how I can help you. I'm here to answer your questions through Messenger, or if you have Facebook, through email at the word writing_doctor@yahoo.com. And I apologize that in most cases I disable the comments in the YouTube because we do have some funny people out there that will put inappropriate comments, and I don't want to have to deal with that. On Facebook, I can monitor that more closely and eliminate comments that maybe are not so positive or appropriate. So if you have a question or a comment, go ahead and message me or put something on the post on Facebook, or you can email me at writing_doctor spelled out at yahoo.com. So next video will be for the 9th grade. Then we'll do one more for 10th. And it's critical that your kids pay attention. And I will say, like, if you're a 9th or 10th grade teacher, it would be very beneficial to practice the 7th grade difficult questions. And if you're a 7th grade teacher, it would be beneficial to practice those supporting type questions in the 4th grade if they left 4th grade not doing well on those. And so I don't think it's just one size fits me. Sometimes one size can fit all, because if they left that grade struggling, then we need to practice that gap, that hole, that struggle before we try to move on to bigger and better and more difficult things. Thanks, and God bless.